All right, we're diving straight into the world-class discipline of multi-channel follow-up cadences. This isn't just about sending a few emails. No, this is about a structured, almost scientific approach to driving real, predictable revenue growth.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the core principle of persistence, the why behind all of this. Then we'll get into the architecture of a modern cadence and the automation that makes it all hum. After that, we get really practical with a step-by-step blueprint, and we'll wrap up by looking at the costly mistakes you absolutely have to avoid. First things first. Before we even touch the how, we have to be completely grounded in the why. Understanding this principle of persistence, it's the bedrock of any truly successful sales and marketing strategy. So what exactly is a follow-up cadence? Let's be clear. It is so much more than just checking in. Think of it as a pre-planned series of interactions. And the magic words here are behavior-driven. That means a prospect's own actions, what they click, what they download, actually trigger the next step, guiding them systematically from just being aware of you to making that final decision.
This idea didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's built on the shoulders of giants. We're talking about people like Brian Tracy, who gave us the legendary 5 calls rule, and Donnie Schultz, who pioneered integrated marketing communications. Their work combined really forms the DNA of the modern multi-channel approach we see today. They're the ones who helped turn persistence from an art into a science. Now, this number is the cornerstone of our entire conversation, 80%. That's the percentage of sales that need at least 5 contacts to close. Let that really sink in. 4 out of every 5 potential deals are just left on the table because people don't follow up enough. And here's the other side of that coin, which just brilliantly illustrates the problem. A staggering 90% of salespeople give up before they even hit that critical 5th contact. You see that gap? That massive gap between what's required and what actually happens? Well, that's where all the opportunity is lost. And that is the exact problem a structured cadence is designed to solve. And here it is, straight from Brian Tracy himself. This confirms the reality we're dealing with. So your entire strategy has to be built on this foundation. If your process just stops after 3 or 4 contacts, you are systematically, by design, leaving most of your potential revenue behind.
Okay, so we get the why. It's absolutely crucial. Now let's dig into the how. We're going to look at the architecture of a truly modern system, because this is all about designing a smarter journey for your prospect, not just making more noise. Okay, this right here is a fundamental mindset shift you have to make. The old way was all about promotion, just blasting out one way, kind of manipulative messages, right? The world-class approach today is all about communication. It's about creating two-way, cooperative conversations that build real understanding and trust over time. Now, to make that happen, the top consultants use what's called the PESO model. It's a way to make sure your prospect sees consistent, valuable messages everywhere, across paid ads, earned media like PR, shared social content, and your own owned assets like your website and email list. This creates this incredibly powerful, seamless experience where a paid ad reinforces a blog post, which then gets amplified on social. It's how you build a brand they trust. And it gets even smarter. The truly elite teams are now using AI to figure out a prospect's channel affinity. The system analyzes past engagement data to figure out, hey, is this person more likely to respond on LinkedIn versus email? This lets you create this hyper-relevant outreach that meets your audience exactly where they are, on their terms. It's a game changer. So you're probably thinking, how on earth does a team manage all this complexity across so many channels? And the answer, the real engine that makes this all possible, is automation. Let's break down the core mechanics of how this works. First, you have event-based triggers. Someone downloads a white paper, boom, that kicks off a sequence. Then you have lead scoring, which ranks your prospects based on those actions, so your sales team always knows who the hottest leads are. And finally, you have automated drips, which deliver these personalized message sequences at scale, so every single lead gets consistent follow-up without anyone lifting a finger. Honestly, a great way to think about this is that automation is the operating system for your entire revenue team. It's what provides the reliability, the scalability, and the precision that manual efforts just can't touch. It's your safety net, making sure no valuable lead ever gets forgotten or falls through the cracks. All right, we've gone through the theory, we've talked about the tech, now let's get tactical. Let's look at a tangible blueprint for putting all of this into practice. Take a look at this matrix. It's basically a day-by-day playbook. And notice the logic here. On day 1, the goal is just to break through the noise, maybe with a direct channel like LinkedIn or a phone call. Fast forward to day 7, and you're using retargeting ads to reinforce your message. By day 21, you're in a position to close. You see, every single step has a specific channel, a clear objective, and a defined value exchange. Let's make this super concrete with an example. Imagine a B2B SaaS company. A prospect downloads a white paper, thoughts the trigger, an email goes out immediately. A couple of days later, they start seeing a relevant case study ad on LinkedIn. Then they get a practical tool in their inbox, like an ROI calculator. Each step is automated, it's logical, and it builds perfectly on the last one. Now, to really master this, you want to focus on these 3 keys. First, measure engagement velocity. That's how fast a prospect interacts with your stuff. High velocity means you've got a hot lead. Second, you have to stack the value. Every single touch point should add something new, a case study, a tutorial, that ROI calculator, making your offer more and more compelling. And finally, use trial closes throughout the sequence. These are simple questions like, does this sound like it could solve your problem? To gauge interest and make sure you're still on the right track. You know, when you boil it all down, it comes back to one thing. Just like Stephen Covey said, trust. Every email, every ad, every piece of content in your sequence has one primary job, and that's to build the trust a person needs to make a big change and choose you. So we've covered the winning formula, but it's just as important to know what can go wrong. So let's wrap up by covering the common pitfalls that can derail even the best laid plans.
Think of these as the 4 horsemen of cadence failure. You've got premature abandonment, that's quitting before that 5th contact. You've got siloed reporting, which means your data is all over the place and you can't see the full picture. Then there's irrelevant automation, sending generic, one-size-fits-all messages that everyone just ignores. And finally, manual data handling, which just invites human error that kills your ability to optimize. Avoiding these isn't just a suggestion, it's non-negotiable.
And we'll end with another gem from Brian Tracy because it just perfectly captures the whole philosophy here. Success is predictable. It leaves tracks. A well-designed, multi-channel follow-up cadence isn't about getting lucky. It's about following the proven, data-driven tracks that predictably lead to success.